We are going to be in Mark chapter 9 this morning. I got a trophy here for who can convince me why that they're the best Christian in this room. We'll just go in this room. Anybody want to make a case for themselves, not for someone else? I know you'd all just pick me, so really? Wow, you want to go for it? No, why you are the best person. Why you are the best Christian. No, I said you can't pick somebody else. Because everybody would pick me. So that the illustration would fall flat. You love me? That should win right there. It seems like a crazy argument to make out loud. Almost like, who would verbally make that argument? But we compare ourselves to one another all the time. And if we were going to have that, let's call it a discussion this morning, some may say, well, I might be the better Christian because of longevity. Maybe I've been going to church my whole life, or I've been a Christian for longer than you. And someone else may say, yeah, but you're like over-churched, religious, legalistic, and I'm just like new, and I'm still in love with Jesus, and I'm excited to be here. Some may argue, man, I am so passionate in worship. And others would say, I'm reverent, as if those two things are mutually exclusive. Some of you might suggest you have the title of elder, and that makes you better than others. And then others would say, I'm entirely too humble for a title. Maybe you'd say, I give a lot. Another might say, I give a lot of time. I teach Sunday school while I spend my time studying the Word. I volunteer while I pray. Well, I've gone on short-term missions trips. And someone else may say, I know, I've funded you on multiple short-term missions trips. And I guarantee there's somebody in the room who's thinking, I am entirely too humble to play this game. Now, we wouldn't make that argument out loud. We wouldn't actually have that unhealthy discussion. But it's happened. And the problem is we often compare ourselves to one another. Really, we're just trying to impress one another. If I could get you to think I'm a better Christian, I won't just come out and say, let me tell you why I'm a better Christian. I'll tell you, man, like I was studying, Proverbs this week, and I read the whole book of Proverbs in the morning and the evening, every day, and just felt like God spoke to me. People say that stuff to me. And I think, are you trying to impress me, or are you actually trying to tell me what God said to you? Well, what did God say to you? All kinds of stuff. Yeah. It's like, I'll give you $5 if you can open your Bible to Proverbs right now. I think we talk a good game because we're trying to impress one another. But I don't think impressing one another is really the big deal. We need to impress Jesus. So the question this morning is, who would Jesus say is the greatest? Who would Jesus say is first? So if you're in Mark chapter 9, we're going to look at the discussion we just had. The disciples are all together. They're walking with Jesus to Capernaum. They're going back to Jesus' base of operations in Galilee, which is most likely Peter's house, which is where they operated from. So they're on their way to Peter's house, and they're having a discussion. Verse 33. And they came to Capernaum, and when Jesus was in the house, he asked them, what were you discussing on the way? But they kept silent, for on the way they had argued with one another about who was the greatest. This was a real conversation. Like, which one of us is Jesus' go-to guy? Which one of us is Jesus the most impressed about? And when Jesus says what we were discussing, the word discussing is more of what were you discussing with argument? Like, I kind of picture Jesus saying, hey, what were you girls bickering about back there? Like just a little, what? Because you can imagine if Jesus is in front of the crowd, and I don't think they're lined up like ducks in a row, but Clearly, he's aware of the conversation happening behind him. You got to figure he's smirking like, oh boy. We'll have to talk about this when we get back to Capernaum, because this is getting a little out of hand. So he says, what were you guys talking about back there? And none of them says, oh, I'm glad you asked. Maybe you can settle this for us, Jesus. No, they're quiet because they know, oh, we didn't think you could hear that conversation. We thought we were being a little more quiet. Because they know it's an unhealthy conversation. They know it's a selfishly motivated conversation. They know they're comparing themselves to one another. I'm curious, I wonder what standard they were using. Like at this point, they've really only been given a few assignments, like follow me. And then when Jesus sent them out, he sent them out to preach the gospel, to heal the sick, and to cast out demons. So are they like, well, like I preached like 10 times, and there was like 50 people there each time, so I've preached to 500 people. Well, yeah, but I only preached to like 300 people, but like 30 people got healed when I was there. And somebody else may argue, man, every time I go into a town, I'm just like casting out demons left and right. What are you jokers doing? You think Jesus gave out progress reports like when they got back? Like, oh, John, you're going to be satisfactory in preaching. You've got a lot of work to do. But man, like you're like just like so above average when it comes to praying for the sick. I don't get the impression that Jesus was handing out report cards. I bet you Peter brought up that walking on water thing though. Like you have to. Like really, because I didn't see any of you guys walking on water, a couple of weeks ago in the middle of the night, when you were scared it was a ghost. And then inevitably someone's going to say, I saw you fall in. Like I definitely caught that part, Peter. Now it's interesting, you can read this story in all 4 Gospels. And if you don't know this, let me teach you something cool about the Bible. The Bible has 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And Matthew, Mark, and Luke are considered the synoptic Gospels because they kind of tell the story the same way in almost the same time frame. It's generally believed that Luke and Matthew wrote their Gospel with a copy of Mark's Gospel. Mark's is the shortest, so like here's what Mark said, oh yeah, I remember that, oh yeah, I remember that. And they kind of added like what they remembered, and Luke put even more detail than Mark. And then John is just kind of off on his own. But think about it as 4 men standing at 4 corners of an intersection, and they saw a car accident. Now they all saw the same car accident, but you're going to get a slightly different perspective. There was a red car and a blue car. The red car crossed in the other lane. It's going to be the same story, but each one saw something a little bit differently. And it's interesting because Mark and Luke are not disciples, but Matthew is. Matthew's version of this is just a hair. Matthew says the disciples came to Jesus and asked him, who is the greatest in the kingdom? I have to imagine that's how Matthew remembered that conversation. Luke and Mark report it as they were arguing on the way. But I always find it interesting when I find a story in one gospel, you can just do a quick search on Google, that's what I use. Hey, here's the story. Where is it in Matthew? Where is it in Luke? And you can kind of get the different perspectives. The real question, which of us is the greatest, is which of us is the greatest after Jesus? I can't imagine they were arguing that any one of them, well, like I'm even doing better than Jesus. They're really arguing for who is Jesus' top guy. Comparing themselves to one another, not comparing themselves to Jesus. And this is the trap that we fall into because we look around the church and we think, I'm doing better than them. Their marriage, that's a mess. Their kids don't listen. That guy's always broke. You can tell they were fighting on the way to church. And then suddenly I feel like a better Christian because I never fight with my wife on the way to church anymore. Mostly because I get here 4.5 hours before she does. But we don't fight on the way to church. Even if we did, it's only like a 50-yard walk. It doesn't give you much time to fight. Man, that guy's life is just off the rails. He's from one emergency to the next. And suddenly we use that to feel better about ourselves. So verse 35. And Jesus sat down and called the 12 and said to them, if anyone would be first, he sits down for like this teaching moment. Like, all right, guys, come here. What were you talking about back there on the road? I don't know. Talking about lots of stuff, It was a long trip. So Jesus sits down and says, all right, come here. If you want to be first, imagine the hush. Shut up. He's going to tell us. I don't think they would have got a pen out. They didn't have pens. But he's about to tell us how to be first. And whatever he says to do, I'm going to crush it. Whatever he says to do, I'm going to do it twice over. Whatever he says is the most important thing. Before you 11 jokers have a shot at it, I'm already moving in that direction. So Jesus sits him down and he says, if anyone would be first, he must be last of all and a servant of all. I don't want to do that. I don't want to serve people. No, Jesus. When we said first, we meant like the best. I don't want to, we're with you. It's like you're like top dog and we're like, whatever the pecking order is after us, we're with you. And Jesus says, you want to be first, you have to be last. If you want to impress Jesus, humble yourself. Humble yourself. You want recognition? If that's something inside of you that you want, you should run from that. If you want to accrue status, do everything you can do to avoid it. If you want people to be aware of something you've done, don't talk about it. That selfish motivation that's brewing inside you, Jesus said, like this, none of that is for you. You want to be first, be last. You're going to put other people's needs in front of yours. It's amazing how many times the Bible says, humble yourself. And yet not one time in all of Scripture does anybody ever pray for humility. Because it's not something you pray for, it's something you do. You can either humble yourself or you can be humbled. Let me tell you from a guy who often gets it wrong, being humbled is so much worse. It's so much better to humble yourself. Being humbled is... Humble pie is like... I don't know, it's probably just made of straight mayonnaise in my world. Whatever the food is that you hate the most, it's disgusting. I've never once thought, it's not that bad. It's like, it's terrible the whole time, and I've had it before, and I got to finish the whole thing, really? Because the Bible says, humble yourself. This isn't Lord, help me to be more humble. One of the fruits of the Spirit is not humility. This one's on you. Humble yourself. Stop thinking of yourself so highly and start putting others first. So clearly they got it because Jesus moves on, right? No, thank God they're just as dumb as we are. Verse 36. He took a child and put them in the midst of them. Where did he get a kid? They're in a house. He's sitting down, he's having a conversation. Where's the kid come from? Kid probably lives there, right? That's right. Most people believe this is Peter's house. It's probably Peter's kid. And he's just like a snot-nosed little arrogant brat who thinks his dad's so special. Because he heard the story about how his daddy walked on water a few weeks ago. How many of them walked in the house and walked past the kids? How many stopped and said, hey buddy, really good to see you? Or, come on guys, Jesus is coming, we got to clear space, we got to get something for him to eat, because we treat people that we're trying to impress with honor, and we treat people that we don't care about like we don't care about them. So here Jesus pulls in this little kid, and pulls the kid among them. And taking him in his arms, Jesus says to them, whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. And whoever receives me receives not me, but him who sent me. So if you want to impress Jesus, humble yourself. If you want to impress Jesus, love people. Oh, this is like the easiest sermon ever, right? We're so good at humbling ourselves. And mean, I'm probably better than most. And we're so good at loving one another, right? I mean, not the people in our house. I mean, those people are hard to love. Not the guy who sits on the other side of the room from me on purpose because, well, he's hard to love. Jesus says, whoever receives a child like this receives me. Whoever loves them, whoever serves them, whoever honors them. But that's not really kind of how the world works. Adults don't honor children. Children honor adults. I mean, right? Honor your mother and father. It's kind of weird for Jesus to say, serve this kid. We've certainly managed to get that a little bit out of balance these days. Parents spend their entire time chasing their children's schedule, and however their child feels sets the mood for the day. But that's not what Jesus is talking about. He's saying, whoever sees these children as more important than themselves, who's willing to stop and spend time with them and honor them and do something for them, it's like you're doing it for me. All right, so this is clearly a ploy by Bob to get more children's workers to work on that side of the building. That this only applies to being nice to kids. What's the cutoff age? Like 10? Once they're past 10, can we just ignore them? 16? 18? Or do you think maybe this applies to more than children, that Jesus is taking them and showing them a lesson? Maybe it's about people that we don't normally pay attention to. Those that we don't feel we have to honor. We're so busy trying to impress important people, we never seem to care about the people that Jesus says is the most important. We show a lot of honor to people we're trying to impress. Do you ever stand in line to get an autograph? Do you ever take a day off work to go to a show and spend money and pay extra to get there early and buy a picture so a guy can sign a picture of his face and you can go, whoa. Maybe Eric Clapton will want to be my friend. He doesn't want to be your friend. He's met a million people like you. We'll spend money. We'll take time off work. We'll travel to try to impress somebody that we think is important with something very unimpressive. But I wonder, as we walk around Elk County Food in downtown Ridgeway, how many people we just walk past. When I look down the aisle and I see somebody at the end of the aisle that I really want to see, I'll kind of stop and take my cart back that way. And, hey, how you doing? I just bumped into you. Or I saw you at the end of the aisle and wanted to come down and say hi. But some people, they just get the, hey, hey. Then you get a little lower on the rung and you get this one. And then you get even lower on the rung and you're like, oh. I'm just going to go hide down this aisle over here. If you want to impress Jesus, you have to love people, including the ones that you don't have to love. We've all got a list. We all know who we don't have to love. The people that everyone else ignores. If no one else loves them, why should I have to? People who dug themselves into their own hole. They made their own bed. I've tried to help them before. Addicts. Convicts. People whose life is a mess. They don't want to be helped. I don't think that's ever true. I think they really want to be helped. I think they don't know how to receive it. They don't know what to do with it when they get it. But I've never met somebody who was down and out and actually didn't want help. They might not know how to ask for it. They might not want the help you're offering. But we have our excuses why we don't have to love those people. If you want to impress Jesus, you have to love people that you don't want to. I don't want to love people that hurt me. I don't. I want to say, I love them, but I don't like them. You ever try to pull that one? Convince yourself, no, I love them, I just don't like them. I wouldn't go out of my way to help them. If they were drowning, I'd throw them a cement block, see if that would help. But no, I don't hate them. No, it's cool. We're fine. We're fine. We just don't talk. We avoid each other. The people that I don't want to. People who betrayed me. People who love to argue with me. Oh, and also, if you're friends with any of those people, I don't want to love you neither. Don't let me go on Facebook and see that you're Facebook friends with somebody who hurt me, because clearly that means you've taken their side, because your world revolves around my world, right? No, but it certainly feels that way. I'm not going to get into it, but we're not going to love people who are like crass and foul-mouthed and worldly. And then the other half of the church says, well, I'm not going to love the religious people with a stick up their butt. And certainly we don't have to love like an ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-spouse, right? You buying any of this? I'm not. If you want to impress Jesus, you have to love the ones you don't have to love, the ones you don't want to love, and even the ones you're not expected to love. People who vote differently than I do. I'm not even expected to deal with those people. People who don't look the same that I do. People who come from a different culture than I do, or a different background than I do, or a different religion. If we believe Jesus is the only way, that means every other religion is wrong. Do we still have to love those people? You better believe we do. They're never going to come to Jesus if we treat them the way we think we get to treat them. I mean, the golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? Jesus said, treat these children, these insignificant people, treat the people that you don't want to love the way you would treat me. I want to do that either. I'm trying to impress Jesus. I'm not trying to impress Sam. Sam's an idiot. Jesus says, if you honor him, if you receive him, if you love him, you're loving me. When you guys are sucking up to me, you're jockeying for position with me, and who's my number one guy, love this kid. Love the people that you're walking past, because when you love on them, you love on me. And when you love on me, catch this, Jesus says, when you receive them, you receive me, but when you receive me, you receive the one who sent me. This is yet another claim of Jesus' deity. This is Jesus saying, I and the Father are one. I am God. You guys are coming to me like I have some secret about who God is. McFly, I am God. So let's get a little practical, because I don't want to leave you with humble yourself and love people, because then we all walk out of here like, nailed it. And I don't get to nail it, so I don't think you guys should get to nail it either. So before I get practical, let me make a confession. I've been in this passage all week, receiving little children, loving little children, and I've failed like miserably. So last Sunday after church, I left and went down to camp. I did kids camp, which is third grade through fifth grade. I was the speaker. And for some reason, on that campground, I'm not making this up, I'm like level B rock star. These kids love me. Literally, they had me signing autographs. And there was a certain group of boys that every time they saw me, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, hey Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, hey Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, hey guys, what's up? And then I'd see him an hour later. Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, hey, what's up? And then they started by Tuesday. Bob the Builder, 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 hey Bob the Builder, hey Bob the Builder. Guys, what do you need? Now all week long I'm reading this passage about receiving little children. And I really just wanted to kick some little children. So don't think for a minute that I'm standing here in like a place of authority where I'm crushing it. It was like outwardly, I'm like, hey guys, what's up? In my heart, failure across the board. Like I even started moving where I sat at lunch so I wouldn't sit past the lunch line. So I wouldn't have to hear, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob, Pastor Bob. Actually, I'm getting upset telling the story. We're going to move on. What those kids wanted was a relationship. They wanted to be noticed. They wanted to be able to interact with the guy that they thought was the cool guy. They wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves. They wanted time and attention. And these seem to be the two commodities that we think honor people the most. Time and attention. But often we give attention without time. Hey, I can give you 5 minutes at 4 o'clock. That's attention without time. Give me the bullet points. What do you need? I'll take care of it. Thank you. See you later. I get a lot done that way. Mostly I hurt people. They get their time, but they don't feel like I love them. Fail. Absolute fail. Or we give time without intention. You ever talk to somebody with a phone in their hand? Are they, like, can you put that in your pocket? Can you, like, put it, like, oh, hold on 1 second. No, I'm listening. Wait, what? Or the people who say, man, we're taking the youth group out to sleep outside tonight so we can know what it's like to be homeless. Could you imagine if you're homeless and you see some kids camping? They're like, we're homeless tonight too, man. Got your attention. Not time though. Like, I'm only here until like in the morning and we're going to hit Dunkin' Donuts. Or maybe we show up at the Christmas happening downtown to deliver meals, and the whole time it's selfie, delivered 10 meals this year. I gave my time, but I didn't give anybody my attention. I gave my attention, but maybe for a couple hours. It's time and attention. That's better. You know? But you can spend hours with somebody listening to them talk and be completely focused on what they are saying and not help them at all. Well, I listened. I looked in their eyes the whole time. I could tell you exactly what's bothering them. What is it? They're broke. Well, did you give them some money? No. I gave them my time and my attention. Great. Do you know that's how some people ask for help? That they're just telling you their problems? And they don't know how to say, boy, $100 would change things this week. So they say, boy, we're really hurting, things are tight, things are tough. And yeah, tough everywhere. If I asked you if you love people, I think you'd all say yes. If I asked you, would people say that you love them? Yeah is no. If they understood how I love them, the answer is no. If you can't say, oh yeah, people absolutely tell me that they feel loved when they're around me. Do they feel valued? Did you meet any needs? Listen, sometimes when I'm complaining, I just want someone to complain to. Russ is a great guy to complain to. He listens, he'll commiserate with me, he's sympathetic, he's empathetic. I'm not going to Russ to fix my problems. I'm not saying Russ can't, because I often go to Russ to fix my problems too. But sometimes I just want somebody to talk to. But sometimes I need some help with something. And sometimes I'm bad at asking for help. And so are other people. They just kind of come present problems and we think, oh, not this guy again, he's going to whine. Do I have to love this guy? He's always so negative. And when's he going to get his life together? And for crying out loud, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And Jesus is saying, that's exactly the kind of people you're supposed to be spending your time with. Those are the ones you're supposed to be loving on. Yeah, you can give them time and attention, but did you serve them? Did you put their needs ahead of yours? Did you give them some dignity? Or did they come to you hat in hand asking for a favor or something and you sent them packing? And now they feel even lower and less loved. The disciples wanted to know who was the greatest. Who's the most important? And Jesus says, you guys want to be first? Be last. You want to be the best? Be a servant of everybody. Because you're not going to be the best. I'm the best. It's Jesus, not Bob. Jesus is the greatest. So he says, if you guys want to be first, do it like me. Stop trying to impress me and start loving on people who don't say thank you or can't say thank you or might not even know that you love them. The greatest one among you is the one who represents Jesus the best, the one who puts others first. Jesus is the most famous man in history. Why? Because he was a good speaker? Because he was a good teacher? Because he was a great leader? No, it's because he died the most horrific death in history. gruesome and undeserved. Jesus' fame came from dying. Jesus says, if you want to impress me, humble yourself, love people. At the Last Supper, Jesus said, this is my commandment, that you love one another, as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone would lay down his life for his friend. It's exactly what Jesus did. He put me first. I don't know why. Put you first. He could have said, I didn't do anything. I don't deserve to die. They're on their own. But yet he chose to love. He chose to serve. He chose to put others first. You want status? You want position? Lay your life down for someone else. Let that be your legacy. Let that be what you're known for. The Bible talks about dying to self. To those who can't say thank you, to those who can't give credit, to those who won't set up a memorial, for the sake of love, serve. Which brings us to communion. Because what we celebrate with communion